All right, hey guys, welcome to Tuesday Night Bible Study. We're going verse by verse, in depth through the book of Ephesians. So, this is an in depth study, Ed. Oh, excuse me. So, again, the book of Ephesians, which is just kind of not, it doesn't deal with any issues as other Pauline epistles deal with. All scriptures has their purpose. All books have their purpose. So that's the beauty of scripture. So I'm not glorifying one, putting down the other. When you read scriptures, they all have their purpose, and then so you glean, and then you benefit from what God's purpose was. So, for example, in the book of Galatians, Paul is really combating religious legalism, trying to obey the law. The Gospels, of course, tell the story of Jesus. The Gospel of Jesus, the book of Acts, gets the beginnings of the church. Again, every book had this purpose. So Ephesians basically just really tell us, it's just going to give us, again, revelation. Just revelation. The first chapter tells us what God's inheritance in us. He tells us the blessings of the heavenly purposes of God, and then tells us, it finishes off with God's inheritance, and that's powerful in itself. The first part of chapter 1 tells us what we inherit as a result of God's grace, His love, His mercy, the salvation, the forgiveness. He also tells us the benefits of the blessings that to come because of God's grace towards us. And then he caps it off by saying and all of this is that what God is doing in us, the blessings He's bestowed upon us, the spiritual blessings that He's bestowing upon us, that all of that has to do with the idea that God has an inheritance in us. So, in chapter 2, we began. Let's go to it. Jump to it. And chapter 2, we started off in verse 1. And there are some things I want to certainly explore and unpack. One, he says, and you were dead in your trespasses and sins, and then in which you previously walked according to the ways of this world. This is important, this state, the term, understanding the term world here. There's two things he says, the ways of this world, and then according to the ruler that exercise authority over the lower heavens. And then he says it's the spirit now working in the disobedient. And that's a lot to unpack because it gives us understanding. Let me just say this, why you cannot or why you should not have a lot of hope in the world, because this present age is dominated, it's ruled by the ruler of this world, which is Satan. Now, I made a statement in the title, why we will never achieve Star Trek, the heavens. You see the science fiction, Star Trek being one of the, of course, most popular, iconic. And in the Star Trek, you see some 200 years in the future, that man has achieved the capability of not only going to the stars, but then the technology to travel the stars in what's called light years. So you think about right now, it would just to get to the nearest star, if you traveled at the speed of light at 186,000 miles per second. That's how fast light travels. 186,000 miles per second, right? So you think about how far light would travel in just an hour, right? Okay, but that's how fast light travels. And when you get out into the vastness of the universe, and I'm going to tread carefully here because I'm not an astrophysics, but I learned from them. Okay, but so the nearest star, they tell us, is 5 light years away. It would take us 5 years at the speed of light to get to that nearest star. So space is enormous, right? So in the science fiction fantasy, we achieve this light speed travel, that we can travel these vast difference. Okay, I think it's called warp speed in Star Trek. And you see all, of course, the ideas that you see now, and you get out into the universe is populated by millions of different species, creatures, okay? That's the fantasy. The reality is we don't know because you don't see anything. You don't see no signs of life other than the earth. Okay. My point is this: why we will never get to that place. And in that, what Star Trek tries to say is that man has overcome its emphases of, squabble, greed, wars. We've overcome that. And then by overcoming that, we're now able to get along and travel the universe. Well, let me tell you, that's just, it'll never happen. Star Trek is impossible to happen because, one, we're dead in trespasses and sin. So sin is always going to be the dominant factor in this age. Now there's coming a time when Jesus is going to rid his creation of this cancer of sin. That sin that works in us. So we know that Adam, and for that reason, that's why I said for that reason, here's where you need to be wise, right? This is where the wisdom come in at. Because that's the reality in a sin-infested universe/earth world. So if you ever think that, well, the world is going to get better, it's not. There are certain things that are preventing the spread of sin to our hurt, to our extinction. That's how bad it is. I think a lot of you have heard kind of the story about the scorpion that hitched a ride with a turtle across the lake. He come up to the turtle and says, "Hey man, can I jump on you? I want to get a ride on you. You swim good, and I want to ride." And the turtle goes, "No, I'm not gonna let you ride because you are a scorpion. You're gonna sting us. You're gonna kill both of us." Scorpion goes, "No man, I'm telling you, I won't. I took pinky swear, all that. I'm not." Turtle foolish enough to allow the scorpion to hitch a ride. In the middle of the lake, the scorpion stings the scorpion. As they're dying and sinking, he goes, Why did you do that?" He said, "I'm a scorpion." Interesting story, but that's the reality. We always have to look at that. The world is driven by sin. It's not the other way around. You hear people saying that, I have faith in humanity. Bad faith. And the only reason why we're not exploding in sin, to distinction, is because God is restraining it. He's restraining that. There's going to come a time when he's not going to restrain it. And when that time comes, woe to the world, because we see that in Revelations chapter 6 through 18. One particular case, the rise of the beast. What is interesting about the rise of the beast, the man of sin, the son of destruction, he not only will rule the world, but the world will be deceived by him. And that the world will cast off any kind of inhibition, to the point that they will worship the dragon, meaning Satan, who gives power to the beast. And if you don't think, we get a glimpse of that right now with the worship of 47. And even by those who call themselves Christians. Right? Now, I'm not saying he is the beast in no way. But I'm saying that that's a glimpse of how it'd be 10 times worse, because, they're going to just flat out say it. They're going to worship Satan, and they're going to worship the beast. And when you have people today saying that, 47 is God's chosen, that's a glimpse. That's a glimpse. So you start with we're dead in sin. Adam's sin, remember, we died. We're dead in sin. You were dead in trespasses and sins. Couple that with previously you walked according to the ways of this world. Now the term world here is it has different meanings to it. Okay, different meanings to it. Let me do this. Where is my get my thing here. All right, I'm going to show you the definition of world here. Let's see. This is a nice app, by the way, that I'm going to. This is it's Vine. Well, it's more than vines. It's a Bible app, and as you can see, it just has vines on it. Different translations. That's why I say we live in a wonderful time today. But let me just show you the term, what world means here. In my Bible, the computer's running very slow. Here we go. And let's see. This is, I don't know if y'all can see this. This is Vine's expository dictionary. It's just online, so you get to see it here. And this is Vine, all the words, the Greek words you could use, but I want to kind of give you a definition here. Okay. Here we go. World, where you at? Right here. All right. Now this is Vine, so this is, my computer's running slow. All right, here we go. So as you can see, world, Vine's expository dictionary, New Testament words. But so this is world, and if you go to Vine, it gives you the Greek word, which is cosmos, and notice this: primarily order, arrangement, ornament, adornment. Okay, then it gets into a lot of dictionary language. Okay, um, so when it says look at A, the earth, B, the earth in contrast with the heavens, C, metonymy, the human race, mankind. And this is all what when we talk about the world. It's the age, period of time. Got some other Greek words that we translate world. The idea of world is it starts with the cosmos, or an ordered system. Then you have the heavens, but it's the heavens, the earth. So put it like this: it is the earth not in a chaotic state, but the order. So you think about the universe, you think about the galaxies. We're told that there are hundreds, possibly billions of galaxies out there. We're in just one galaxy, when we call the Milky Way galaxy, our sun and the 9 planets, and then the system there. And they're all systems. And by the way, they're all ordered systems. If you think about the universe, all of the galaxies kind of zooming around the vast universe, not colliding with one another. The planets not colliding to one another. That's the ordered system. Then you have the earth, and then the systems on the earth. Okay, the systems on the earth. And so the systems on the earth would be not limited to, not limited to, the finances. See, that's a part of the world system. All of the finance that you hear about, the world system. By the way, it's not going anywhere. You know, people look at the chaos and all that kind of stuff. There's always ups and downs, but it's not going anywhere. The religious systems, including Christianity. And I use the word Christianity very loosely. Christianity, as it is used, is a man-made term. God never used the word Christianity. God never named the faith Christianity. Man did that. So all of the corruption that goes along, the baggage goes along, that's man. So the idea of the world, the religions of the world, fake, false religions of the world. That's why the entire world, most of the world, and I'm going to say this even atheists, because atheists would try to tell you that they don't have a religious system about themselves, but they do. But the idea is that, but just say, for the sake of argument, all except atheists, which is a very small then number in terms of the population of the earth. And just think about that. Think about I think we're at 8 billion people. I think, right? I think we're at 8 billion people. Um, you know, I'm doing another quick study here, but just think about the fact that 8, the let's see, population. Here we go. Actually, I have another chart, but anyway, 8 billion. Okay, so 8 billion people. The vast majority of this 8 billion people, okay, is caught up in some form of religion. And in fairness, I have to include the faith too, because we believe, okay. So atheists will say they do not believe in any religion, any God, okay. Okay, so they would kind of like be excluded from that number, in fairness. But here's my point: that but there's going to come a time when even atheists will worship the beast. Think about that. Now, but the vast majority of the world is caught up in some form of religion. So you got Christianity, which is the largest religion. Then you got Islam, the second largest, and then from there Buddhism and all the other isms and stuff like that. Then you got the cults, right? Some kind of worship. And the idea is that Why is that? When we say, why are the different belief systems? I'm going to tell you in a moment. Okay? But that's the world. Then you have the financial system, religious systems, what's the other kind of systems in the world? All these things that make up. In fact, I think Paul will refer to them as the rudiment elements of the world. I'm trying to think the other ones. Religion, and then the financial systems of the world. Anything I would say that kind of fits into the world. Right? So the idea is that then, so the world itself, right, has these different systems in it. The systems, different systems. Okay? So then Satan now rules this world. Okay? Satan rules this world. So 1 John is it 3 that I want? 2. Since I'm over this way. So when he says here, do not love the world or the things that belong to the world. If anyone loves the world, love for the Father is not in him. For everything that belongs to the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the pride in one's life, is not from the Father, but is of the world, and the world with its lust is passing away. But the one who does the will of God remains forever. And I want to go one more here. In chapter 5, he deals a lot with the world, but 5 verse 19. And then here, and I get this. So, verse 19, we know that we are of God, and the whole world is under the sway of the evil one. The whole world. So the whole systems of things that's been established. Okay? The finances, the religion, money, education, all of these things that are part of the world. When a person says they are worldly, now there's a religious connotation to it, and then you can say a person, or actually, let's say a person that's a man of the world who has traveled the world. And while it could bring some wisdom, it brings no good. Because guess what? The whole world is under the sway of the evil one. That's what you find. That's what's in the world. The lust of the eyes, the pride of life, and I'm missing one. I'm getting old. Forgive me here. But just that quick. I kind of forgot. Okay. Anyway, lust of the pride, the lust of the eyes, the pride in one's lifestyle, the lust of the flesh. I'm sorry, the lust of the flesh. Okay. So all the stuff that you see, how the world works, and then of course as believers we have to learn how to navigate in this sinful world. But understand the reality. Understand what's the reality that we need to know of the environment in which we live in. So from the time we get born again until the time of our death. So it's kind of two things that's going to happen for the believer, since we don't know when Jesus is going to come back. And by come back, I'm talking about the rapture in particular, but come back. So two things are going to happen for the believer. One, either we're going to die or Jesus will come. And Jesus said those who are alive and remain that is coming will be caught up together with those whom he brings back who have passed on. So, so probably I am like this. From my perspective, now that I'm in my 60s, mid 60s at that. So, you know, it could go either way for me, right? In other words, I could die or Jesus can come. Now, if you're younger, like in your 20s, then you still got a little longer road ahead. I know when I was in my 20s, when I'm in my teens and 20s like that, death wasn't even on the horizon. It just wasn't on the horizon. I never thought in any kind of way death. I was young, living like, even as a believer. I mean, I was, I became a Christian very young in my life at the age of 18 that I became a Christian. So at that point, at the age of 18, I was on the road to sin. Then I became a Christian. Then I became, of course, on the road for Christ. My mindset, either way, what I'm saying is, either way, my mindset was like, as far as death, it still wasn't on the horizon. In other words, it just didn't, there was no cognitive recognition of death. I lived my life. That's why when I think back now, I go, you know what? God was merciful. I did some stupid things. I could have died, but I didn't. Back then, I didn't think about it. I didn't think about it until my first wife passed away of cancer, and that death came a lot earlier. In terms of the effect. But the idea here is this: that we are all in the world. The conditions, then, what we need to be always cognitive of, always aware of, we are in a sinful world. The sinful world is not going to get better. Sometimes we are disappointed because the world acts like the world. Why? When he's telling us here the conditions. He's telling us the conditions in which environment that we live in. So now when we think about, now watch this, you were dead in trespasses and sins. So here's the thing, we come into the world. Adam came into the world alive unto God. We come into the world alienated from God, dead in sins. We talked about that word death, being separated, two kinds of death, spiritual death, physical death, and then the eternal death, second death. So now from this point, then when we get born again, and this is something we need to, well, I'll get to that kind of later. Why do we sin? Right? So verses 1 through 3, we're going to unpack that because it kind of tells us why we sin. Even as believers, why we sin. But let's first start off is that we start off with, we're dead in trespasses and sins. So now here's the explanation. Verse 2, in which you previously walked according to the ways of this world. Now the word walk here, let me stop and also explain this, because sometimes you don't hear me use a lot of Greek references, and let me tell you why. You see, I have it right. When I say I don't use it, I have it. This is right here Greek, and I avoid that because one. So this word here, cosmos. Okay, the word cosmos. Okay, so all these Greek words. The reason why a lot of people like the Greek. They like to, rattle off the Greek, and I see sometimes, like on the YouTube, and they're on there, they got their Greek on the other side, and they're reading off the Greek words. Okay, do you, do you, do you? Let me tell you why I don't, and I keep it very plain and simple because one, I don't speak Greek. That's why I don't speak Greek. When the person says, well, the Greek says this, that, and the other, the old phrase, it's all Greek to me. Why? I don't speak Greek. Now that's not to say, and I'm going to explain what I'm going to get to the point in a moment, but I don't speak the Greek language, and so this study here, what we see, this is Vines. What's the W.E. Vines? Okay, or is it Merle Vines? Merle is his name. No, W.E. Vines. Okay, so he was a Greek scholar. There are other Greek scholars. Right here is another one. I don't know if you can see that. Ooh, get over here. This is another very long, big Greek words, and it is Spiros Zohidis. Zohidis. Never can pronounce the name right. Another Greek scholar. So my point is that I'm not opposed to scholars. I haven't, right? There's some stuff up there, all Greek. And the reason why I'm going to explain why I need to explain why I'm using these words here. Because when we define words or use words, we probably can look up the term world from the dictionary. Let me see if I can do that right now. Definition of, which one I was going to look up? Oh, world. Okay, so the definition of world, if you look up it in just the regular dictionary, so pretty much any dictionary, regular dictionary, this is one to come up on Google, and it says the world, and then it says together with all its countries, peoples, and then natural features. Not a bad definition here. Another one is that the total entities, the world of reality, everything that exists. Okay. Biblical definition here, the earth itself, including the sun, moon, and stars. Okay. So there is a general definition, and you wouldn't go wrong by that. But here, the reason why I would say I use the Greek is because the New Testament was written in Greek. Therefore, I want more concise definitions of how the word is defined in the Greek. Okay, so that's why I did that. Okay. Same thing with love. Same any biblical word. Okay. So it's how the word was used, and then it's more concise. You may get it in a general sense in Webster and other dictionaries. So the idea of the world is not just the star systems, but it's the man-driven systems on the planet, and that's why I said the world of finance. There's a world. There's the world of science, all that kind of stuff. The world of education, all of these things, and of course, John says the lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. That's what's driving then the world system. Which is why I said this is one of the reasons why you will never see Star Trek. Now, even right now, you have various billionaires that's making rockets, right? Billionaires. So you had one billionaire that made a rocket, threw some people on it. They went up to the very edge of space, right? They went up. It's almost like going up, dipping in the water a little bit, turn around and come back home. X did something even more spectacular, going up to the space station and getting the astronauts that's been up there for a month and bringing them home. Big win for X on that, by the way. Okay, big win for X. So now the question is, watch it. Will we ever go to Mars? Personally, I don't think we will. That's a bigger leap. It's amazing too that people there are people that will leave their marriages if on the Mars. There's people talking about trying to go to Mars, and just the idea of going to Mars and going on a one-way trip. Because in other words, they're telling people, well, if we do this, like go to Mars, like if we do that, it's a one-way trip. You ain't coming back because we ain't got no way to get you back. It ain't gonna be like X where we can go up and have some alternatives and come and get you. You're gone, and then you got to go there. You got to get to Mars and try to live, and that's just preposterous. But let me tell you why that's not going to even work. Man is too sinful. And just suppose, you get up there in Mars with a group of people. Then how does sin play in that? And one of the interesting things about sin that people don't talk about, like when you have people denying the kind of existence of sin. Let me go back to my scriptures here. Notice he said you were dead in your trespasses and sins, and then he says, in which he previously walked according to the ways of this world. So every single person, the 8 billion people we have on planet now, they either were walking because they're saved as a Christian, and if they're not, they're walking according to the ways of this world. So that's the reality that you better kind of always be cognitive of. And then let's say a group of people get in the planet and they go. And let's say they go up there to Mars. Let's say it's, I don't know, 20, 30 of them. Well, not so grandiose. Let's say 20, right? When you get away from the extremes, because you get up, and let's say you're about halfway to Mars. Who's to stop people from acting out on their sinful nature? People think, well, the Creator good. Really? You think that would happen? Now, the astronauts that were on the space station just above Earth, that they weren't out of reach. So yeah, they're going to be on their best behavior. They're not going to kill each other. It's not going to, so because guess what? At some point, we got to come back to Earth. But if you shoot them to Mars, you get about halfway to Mars, you ain't coming back anyway. How do you think they're gonna? How do you think they would act? See, notice you're dead in trespasses and sins. That's the first thing. And because the Earth is populated with people who are dead in trespasses and sins, so guess what? Now they are governed by the ways of this world. And notice they walk. And this word walk here is to be ordered by, to order one's path, according to the ways of this world. That is why you see the 8 billion people. Not all 8 billion people, marched in the same way, 8 billion ways. No, the ways of this world is split up, in other words, religiously, science, selfish science, right? Greed really drives the world, right? Greed. So that's why it's never going to change. Man will destroy himself before they ever get to the stars. War, fighting, these are the ways of the world, fighting. The power-driven individual, the ways of the world. Think about money. There's a list of when we say billionaires, they will probably have to invent even another name for them. Like I think this group that I saw on social media, the group, the lowest one had $100 billion, and of course the highest Elon has 320 billion. Now that's billion. It's an insane amount of money. I think it's so much money that we really cannot even grasp the amount of money that it is. I put that in the same kind of way that we can't really grasp the vastness of the universe. So the best way we could do it is to basically say light years. And even that, well, what does that mean to us? We're nowhere close, right? Like if you had a number scale, we're nowhere, we can't even get up in there to be on the number scale to measure what that light year is. And yet the nearest star is 5 light years away. We're nowhere close to even being that. Most of this 8 billion people is nowhere close to being in that stratosphere of billionaires that have like 100 billion. If you had 1 billion, you're doing very good, right? 1 billion, 2 billion, but 1 billion, 2 billion to that crowd of people that have 100 billion, they're like, okay, yeah, all right, yeah. But even that, think about that. Think about all the billionaires that kind of parked their jets and ran up in a sense and kissed the ring of 47. Think about that. That boggles me. Why would they need to? Anywho, I digress. My point is to show you is that this is the ways of the world. That's how the world works. Right? That's how the world works. We use the phrase too in our world, and everybody can even get down into a micro kind of cosm. In my world, it's me and my wife, our family, like that. That's our world, right? I can tease and say my wife is queen in our world, right? Which, by the way, is the only world that matters. Love you, honey. You know, right? And then, of course, you get the in different world that, and I call it the game too. What is the game? What is the ways of the world? Now, notice he says right here, and you were dead in your trespasses and sins in which previously you walked according to the ways of this world. The 8 billion people we have right now, we're all kind of walking according to the ways of this world. Notice this, according to the ruler that exercise authority over the lower heavens, and then the spirit now working in the disobedience. Now stop. Let me show you something here, which is very interesting. Revelation. Now watch this. Watch this. Revelations 20. Revelations 20. And the scene here is Jesus has returned. This is the second coming of Jesus. Every eye will see him. And then he comes now, seizes control of the planet. Okay? He seizes control of the planet. He is going to now start the process of ridding mankind his time out. And one of the first things he does is this. Then I saw an angel coming down from the heavens with the keys of the abyss and a great chain in his hand. He seized the dragon, that ancient serpent, who is the devil and Satan. So just in case you're confused, that's who he's talking about. And bound him for 1,000 years. Now watch this. He threw him into the abyss, closed it, and put a seal on it so that he would no longer deceive the nations until the 1,000 years were completed. And after that, he must be released for a short time. What? Okay. But notice here the truth that's just been revealed. Right? Notice the truth that's been just dropped on us. In which he previously walked according to the ways of this world, according to the ruler, who exercised authority over the lower heavens, the spirit now working in the disobedient. So the reason why the world, the systems of the world, is corrupt is because Satan, the ruler, and his kingdom incites the sin. So now, why is the entire world, right? Why, in one aspect, you have millions, billions just following false religions. Think about that, following false religion. And I could make an argument to say why our faith is different. Not the people, but our faith is different. But you look about the world, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, on and on and on. Why they're following, right? Then you have why the world, other part, right? The greed, right? Just driven by greed. I mentioned the billionaires club. Why you got 100 billion? You have more than enough money that you could ever spend in your lifetime, right? You have enough money to last you for thousands of years, right? And yet these same people will squabble because they're over the unionization of their workers. That you don't want to pay your workers more than $25 an hour or something like that. When it won't even affect you. Now let me tell you that just never changed. It's a nice hope, the hope that we could tug on the heartstrings of these billionaires. So let me tell you, they will ruin the earth in favor of their greed. So you cannot ever, again, that's according to the ways of this world. Medicine, right? Why wouldn't it be a shame if they have a cure for cancer? But why wouldn't they give the cure for cancer? They make more money in the treatment, even if it costs you your loved ones. I'm not saying they do or don't, because I don't know. But never underestimate greed is what I'm saying. And behind all of that, see, what's driving that is the ruler of the world that incites you to sin, that incites everyone. He corrals everyone down the various path. It's religion, corral down that path. Greed, corral down that path. Lust, drink. Think about this: lust, drugs, the gratification, corral them down there. So you got, and then isn't it amazing? So you always got people that's willing to do crime. Isn't that something? I don't know. I think about that. You have people that's always willing to do crime. No matter how stupid it is. You're going to get caught. You're going to go to jail. You may get killed. And they're going to do the crime. Right? Always. Why? Because this is the way that they've been corralled. Who's corralling them? The ruler of this world. Notice he said the spirit now working in the children, the disobedient. Now, what's going to happen is that when the Lord comes back, all of this will change when Jesus comes back. He's going to kick this all out. This is all going to be changed. And one of the first things he's going to do by doing that is by locking up Satan for 1,000 years. Why? Because he's not through with him. But to do what he wants to do, he lock up Satan. And guess what? The nations are no longer being deceived. And then, verse 7, when the 1,000 years are complete, Satan will be released from his prison and will go out and deceive the nation at the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them for battle. Their numbers like the sand of the sea. They came up over the surface of the earth and surrounded the encampment of the saints, the beloved city. Fire came down from heaven and consumed them. Then the devil who deceived them was thrown into the lake of fire, where the beast and the false prophet are, and they will be tormented day and night for never and ever. But what is interesting is, think about this. After these 1,000 years are complete, he's able to deceive the nations, and that the nations will rebel. So what's driving this? First, start off with that the reason why he's able to do this. Now, in the ages to come, he's not that even if God was to allow that, he's not going to do that. But even if in the ages to come, that sin nature is going to be eradicated out of people. So why he's able to do that even in the future, he's able to do it now, but why is he able to do it in the future? In the future, he's able to do it because you're dead in sin nature. You start with the sin nature. He's able to what? Incite the sin nature, which also gives us some really good thought about what's going on during the millennial reign, because apparently there's some people who are not born again. Apparently there's some people who are still dead in their sins during that 1,000-year reign. That's for our Friday night study, where we are studying the end times, which we are going to get to that. Actually, we're at that point talking about Revelations 20. But how is Satan able to then now control the earth? You start with people that are dead in sin. That's why. And then he's able to corral them, right? And corral them into the various pens, right? Religion, greed, lust, and all that kind of stuff. The lust, he's able to corral them into these categories, inciting them according to their sin nature. You start with that. You start with the fact that they have sin natures. You start with the fact that with Adam, how was Satan able to incite Adam with the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, the pride of life? Those three things, that's how he was able to get Adam. That's how he was able to get Adam. Let me do that quick. Let's go there and then we'll close out. And you know, I am always just baffled. I'm baffled by Adam. I'm baffled by Adam. Verse 15 says, this is chapter 2. The Lord God took the man, placed him in the Garden of Eden to work it and watch over it. The Lord God commanded the man, you are free to eat from any tree of the garden, but you must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for on the day that you eat from it, you will certainly die. Now, let's skip down to chapter 3. Now the serpent was more cunning of all the wild animals that the Lord God had made. And he said to the woman, did God really say you can eat from any tree of the garden? The woman said to the serpent, we may eat from the fruit of the tree of the garden, but about the fruit of the tree in the middle of the garden, God said you must not eat it or touch it, or you will die. No, you will not die, the serpent said to the woman. In fact, God knows that when you eat it, your eyes will be open and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. By the way, that was true, because at the time they did not know good and evil. The word know means to experience. It's to have knowledge based upon your experience. If you have never eaten a nice red juicy apple. I can tell you how good a red juicy apple is. But until you bite the apple and eat it, then you can say, okay, yeah, you're right. Now I know this apple is good. God had already told them that they were going to die. God already told them that you would, if you eat, you would know good and evil, but they did not experience that. So in a sense, Satan perverted the truth by telling them, hey, you would know good and evil. Then the woman saw that the tree was good for food and delightful to look at. So there's like the pride of life, knowing good and evil. Then the pride, the lust of the flesh, right? The lust of the flesh, wanting the taste of that fruit. And then the lust, the pride of life, lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes, looking, and then the pride of life. And then she took and she gave to Adam. Now, what's interesting here, there was no death at this time. There was no dead in sin. And I'm still baffled. Why, Adam? Why? I won't know that possibly till I get to heaven. Okay. But now, from our perspective now, see, Adam's perspective was he comes from life. And he makes his choice to sin based upon the lust of the flesh, lust of the eye, and the pride of life. Dum didn't know that he already had what Satan lied to him that he was going to get, except for knowing good and evil. See, so now we're dead in trespass and sin. That's our starting point. So then, what Paul now is saying is, see, you used to walk that. Now, remember, he's talking to the Ephesians who are already saved. But you previously walked according to the ways of this world. Don't forget that. You previously walked according to the ways of this world, according to the ruler who exercised authority over the lower heaven, the spirit that now works in the disobedient. That's the condition of the world. All right, we'll pick up with this in next Tuesday, the Tues Night Bible Study. And like I say, there's some revelations here, that some stuff that God has given us, revealing to us. Next week, again, we're going to get into why we sin as believers. Why do we sin as believers? I'm going to tackle that next week. All right, guys, don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to BP the Bible Perspective. And as always, if you have a thought or comment, add it to the comment section below. All comments are welcome. And I'll see you next Tuesday for Tuesday Night Bible Study through Ephesians.